Hi everyone, this is Scott with Arive, and I wanted to sit down and do a nice little video guide to help with first time setup. So if you're just coming into Arive, you're just getting started, what are the first things that you should do and some things that you should know about what you're doing. So to that end, the first thing I recommend that anyone does when they first get into Arive is to set up their user settings. So if you come up to the top right, you'll see a little profile icon up here. You can use this to access all of your settings. For users, this is going to be your own settings for your own account. For admins, you'll also have access to all of the company settings. So any settings that are company-wide. Branch admins will be able to affect different settings for the branch here as well. And for LOs, you'll notice that you also have a borrower portal link that you can access from here. So anything kind of system related or just quick access, it's top right. So first thing you want to do, click up here, go right into your user settings. Once you're in, you'll notice that what you're really affecting, again, is going to be any setting that's tied directly to your own account. So this is going to be stuff like your personal profile information, contact data, state licenses, and generally anything tied to a system feature that just streamlines this for your own account. So you'll notice, for example, there, credentials on the left, as well as pricing templates. So let me go ahead and walk you through this. Most of it is going to be very straightforward, but I want to take the time to make sure that you really know what you're filling out and give you some FAQs along the way. So if you want to start editing this information, click up here at the top right, hit edit. It will open up for you. And from here, you can start making changes. Again, a lot of this is going to be pretty straightforward, but I want to go ahead and highlight the things that will jump out at people and tell you a few things you should know here. So first off, you'll notice that the email is still grayed out. You can't edit this here. If you're not an admin, right, you're going to need the admin to change this for you. If you are an admin, other admins can change this for you as well. This is done in the company settings, and I'll talk about that in a different segment. If you're an admin, one thing to be aware of is that you won't be able to edit your own email address. So you can rely on another admin to do that for you. Or if you are the only admin, definitely feel free, and this goes for anyone, feel free to reach out to us at support and we can update this for you as well. The other thing that jumps out at people here is going to be your mobile phone number. There's a show in PDF option. What this affects is whether or not your mobile phone number is going to show in system-generated documents such as the pre-approval letter. If you have this on, we'll include this. If you have it off, we will exclude this. The thing that I kind of recommend to people is I would do it like this. If I want my cell phone number to be displayed to the borrower, put this in here, mark show in PDF. If I don't, I honestly just don't, I just recommend you don't fill this out. This client-facing title also will be a little less intuitive. So one thing to know, and the reason this is important that everyone fills this out, is because this information will show as your contact information to the borrower in the POS. So if you're giving out your, apply now links or what have you to the borrower, they will see this information for contact data for anyone who's assigned to the loan file. So that includes the loan officer, it includes the processor, it includes the loan officer assistant in the case that they're assigned to the file that early. So it's really important that anyone fills this out and is okay with showing this to the borrower, right? You want to make sure that this is client-facing, ready, and that it's good to go. For the loan officers, this client-facing title is going to show up underneath your name as your title. So you'll want to put in here whatever it is that you like to use to refer to yourself or reference yourself to the borrower. So if you like to label yourself as senior mortgage consultant or loan concierge, you would put that here. Once you're ready, you can go ahead and save that, and that will stick those changes. The other thing that you can do is upload a profile image. And the way that you would do that is actually by clicking the edit photo icon. Give me one moment. I need to enter in a password on my side. But once I'm good there, I'll be able to show this again and show you exactly how you would do this. All right, sorry about the delay there. Okay. So if I want to edit my photo or upload a photo, I just click here. It's going to take me into my own hard drive where I can come in, find my picture in question, hit open. It's going to upload this picture. And what it's doing is it's showing me that I'm going to stick anything that's in the circle as my profile icon that the borrower will see. If I click and drag, I can change what's in the circle. And keep in mind, we're going to completely crop out anything outside the circle. So you want to just make sure that everything in the circle looks good. You can also use the buttons down at the bottom to manipulate this further. So for example, you can rotate the picture with the click of the button. If you hate where you ended up and need to start over, you can hit reset, and it'll put you right back where you started. You can also, most importantly, use this zoom slider to zoom in or out of the picture and really show what you want to show in the circle. Once you're happy with what's there, you can go ahead and save that photo. And what will happen is we'll go ahead and stick that right behind you here. And this is going to be what shows in the POS to the borrower. So make sure that whatever you put in here, you'd be happy to show to a client. Moving right along in the left-hand list, let's go to the licenses. This is going to be important for the loan officers. This is going to be the individual state licenses for you. And the reason this is important that you get this set up is that if you send out a link to the borrower and they start trying to apply in a state where you don't have a state license entered, the borrower is going to receive a message telling them that the loan officer doesn't have a license in that state. So that generally causes a lot of confusion. And so with that in mind, it's really important you do a first pass on these licenses and enter in any states where you do business. If you have a state license that you need to enter, come up to plus license on the right. That's going to show you fields for the license number. So you would just put in that license number, the state, so enter the state that it's connected to. And then renewed through is going to be the year of expiration. So you'll want to put in the 4-digit year when it expires. Then just make sure you click this authorize to conduct business, hit add license, and you're good. Now, I recommend that if you work in a state that doesn't have state licenses, you still put in something for that state. So you can just put in NA in the license, come down, pick the license state, and hit add license. So I just kind of recommend that just to be on the safe side so that if anyone's coming in and they're trying to start a loan in a state, they don't get that message. Next up is going to be My Teams. This is also important for loan officers. This is going to set who on your loan team or who in your system is going to be automatically assigned to your loan files. So anyone that you put in this list is going to automatically be assigned to your loans as soon as they're created, whether that's when you make the loan or whether it's through the POS. So if a borrower applies, the loan is created, it'll assign automatically anyone in this list to your loan file. So this is extremely useful if you always work with the same loan officer assistant or the same processor, and especially if you want them to be able to see all of your loans immediately, right? So you would not want to use this if you work with a processor, but you don't want the processor to be able to see your work on the loan until it's ready for them to get started, right? If you don't want to bog the processor down, you shouldn't assign them automatically right at the time of creation. Because keep in mind, you can manually assign any user to a loan file, whether that's at creation or whether that is later on down the line. So if your process is more that you get a file ready and then assign it to a processor, you wouldn't want to use this. If your process is that maybe you're working with your LOA and your LOA needs to see the file as soon as it's created, you would want to put them in here, for example. Now, another thing that's a little bit less intuitive about this screen is that you'll notice that I'm not restricted to only one LOA or one processor, right? You'll notice I have 3 processors in here. The nice thing about this is that you actually can put in multiple users for a role and all of them get assigned, which means that all of them can see your loan files. So it's not just a one-to-one and you have to stick with the same one every time. You literally can assign a whole team of users to your loan files and they can all see it as well. So when you're ready to do this, you come up to Manage, top right. That's going to show you all the users in your system with a given role based on which of these tabs you're on. So in this case, I'm seeing all the loan officer assistants in my company. So I can click the checkbox next to their name, and when I do that, it's going to add them to my team. So if I want to go ahead and start adding LOAs, I just click next to their name. And if I want to start adding processors, I just come up here to the processors, click next to their name. Once I close this, it's going to add them to my team. So what does this default mean? Might be a question that comes up. If you click the star next to one of these users, it's going to make them the default for you. All that really means is that they're the primary that shows in the dropdown on the main assignment screen. And it also means that their contact information is going to be what shows in the POS to the borrower. But everyone else can still see the file as well and can still work on the file. Your credentials tab is going to be where you can come to default the credentials for any service that connects to our system. So for your credit agency, for example, you can come in, pick your credit agency, and you'll notice there's this make default option. You'll definitely want to turn that on. What this is going to do once I get my username and my password entered is this is going to start automatically selecting this credit vendor and populating my username and password when I go to pull credit. So with that, I can pull credit in only a few clicks. I don't have to manually select my vendor or even put in my password every time. It's as simple. It's all defaulted by the time I go to order credit. You do have the option of changing it though. So if you do work with multiple vendors, you're not stuck. It's not like you don't get this benefit. Just put in the one that you use the most often, and then it should be defaulted for you from there. So most of the time, it'll save you time. Coming right along, right? Or actually, let's mention this. If you save here, you'll notice that there's an error that can come up called login failed. All that's happening here, if you see this, is when you select this vendor and put in your credentials and save, we then go behind the scenes and try to log in with the credentials with that vendor. So we would, in this case, we would go directly to Advantage Credit and we would try to log in on your behalf. If for some reason that doesn't work, that's when you get this error. So just be aware, it's not really an Arive error. All it's really saying is, hey, we tried to log in with this username and password and it didn't work for whatever reason. So when that happens, maybe it's you didn't type in the password or username correctly, or maybe they're expired, right? So just be aware if there's some problem with it, just double check the credentials, try them on the vendor's website. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be tied to some kind of issue like either a typo or expired credentials. But just go from there. Let us know if you have any problems at that point. For AUS, we do have a completely seamless integration with DO and LPA. And this is also where you can come to pre-populate your credentials for those. So just put in your appropriate username and password, save. The same thing will happen on the back end, right? So we're going to try and log in on your behalf. And if you get any kind of an error, that's generally what's happening is that we couldn't log in. LPA, same thing. The only real thing to know about LPA's credentials is that we do use what's called S2S credentials or system-to-system credentials. These are special credentials that LPA gives out to the admins of the LPA account. And they are different from your main credentials that you use to log into LPA. The main difference is that they are actually intended specifically for integrations like this, and they don't expire the way that your main ones do. So if you have any questions about what these are or what you should be using, reach out to Freddie. They should be able to help you out. Again, you might need to be an admin on your Freddie account, but they should be able to clarify any questions you have there. Let us know if you still have questions. Now, a common thing that will come up is what do you put in for this lender branch? That's going to be based on your credit vendor. So if you have questions about what goes here, most people can leave it blank and it's fine. But if you do run into any trouble, definitely reach out to either Freddie and or your credit vendor of choice, and they should be able to clarify that for you. E-signing. So we do have an e-sign integration with DocuSign at this time. This would leverage your own DocuSign credentials. So if you have those credentials, you can put those in here, and you can actually leverage that from there. And in our POS, you'd be able to send DocuSign requests right from within our document request engine with the POS. So the borrower experience is actually exactly the same. The same place where they would go to start uploading documents would also be the same place where they would see those DocuSign requests, and they can actually just sign right in our own POS. So again, if you have DocuSign credentials, you can put those there, and that's how you would authorize those and set those up. I'm going to come back to the concept of pricing templates. For email signature, this is going to be added at the bottom of every single system generated email that goes out of Arive. So if you are prompting the email, it's going to go right at the bottom. Typically, if it's more automated, like it's not something that you actually prompt yourself, we use the loan officer's email signature as a default. So this is extremely important for a loan officer to make sure that this is ready to go out to a borrower, that they'd be happy with the borrower seeing it. But it's important for anyone, really, in the same way. So coming in here, right, if you wanted to edit this, just come up to edit at the top right. It'll open up for you. And this is actually free-form text. So you can come in, type in, whatever email signature I want here, right? I can type it in from scratch, whatever I want to do. You'll notice, however, that we also have all these goofy brackets and all this, looks, it's funky, right? What this is doing is this is pulling information from elsewhere in the system, whether that's another, like the company settings or my user settings or even the loan file itself. It's pulling information from there. So what this means, right, is in this case where I've highlighted this text, it's actually going to pull in my username from my personal info up here. So whatever I'd put in, it'll actually pull that information for me. Same thing down here, this is going to be pulling my company name. So if the company name ever changes in the company settings, it'll actually pull that information live. So the nice benefit there is that if information ever changes, that would mean that you would not have to update that in your email signature. If you change your name and your personal info, you don't have to change it in your email signature as well because the system's already pulling that change. Now, admittedly, for an email signature, that's probably overkill. You can probably just type it out from scratch and just maintain it separately, and it's no big deal. But it's an important concept because this is also done in other settings in the system, and also because this could be a big benefit to you depending on what you're doing it with. So for example, and this is what I like to tell people, this is a good example of something you would use a tag for in an email signature. This is what we call this, by the way, information tags. So if you want to add one of these, all you do is just put your cursor where you want to add the tag, come up to add information tags up here, and you'll notice we're showing you a list of everything in the system that we offer for information tags. So if you want to add anything, just come through, take a look at it, you can get it in there. Now, a good example for this, I say, is loan officer profile image. So you can actually click here and then click OK. And you notice what it does is it adds it right to where my cursor was. I don't have to type it in manually or figure out all the funky brackets. It's all just ready to go. So that's how you would add a tag. And I say that the loan officer profile image is a good example because what this is going to do is it's actually going to pull that personal info image that I uploaded before, and it's going to put that right at the bottom of my email signature. So if I ever decide that I want to upload a new picture, I don't have to come in and manually add the picture myself here. It's going to update this automatically. So that's a good example, I think, of where you might actually change something in the system, and it would be convenient to not have to do it again in your email signature. But ultimately, just do a first pass on this, get it how you like it, make sure you'd be happy with the borrower seeing it. When you're ready, hit save up here, and it will retain all those changes. For my plan and billing, I do have a full guide on how this works. You can just view that on the support center. The long story short is, frankly, there are kind of a lot of questions about this that might be more situational to your needs. So I would just recommend, if you have any questions about that, take a look at our support center and then reach out to our support team. And I'll give you more details on how you can do that later. For the pricing templates, this is going to be effectively a quick pricer template that you can use to run pricing and get rates very quickly. You can use these in a few different ways, though, and I'll show you how this works. So this is the list where you manage the pricing templates, but let me show you how you would start one or how you would use it first. So if I come into pricing up here, this is going to give you a standalone instance of our pricing engine. You can come in and sandbox this information. So you can just put in whatever scenario you want and get pricing results for it. So I can come in and say, 500,000 purchase price, Go ahead and click this to copy that to the appraised value. We're going to go with the conventional, so we're going to put an 80% LTV. I can come in, put in a zip code to verify my loan limits, and go from there, right? I can put in whatever DTI I want, whatever, right? Once I'm happy and I'm saying, okay, I want to go ahead and see what the rates look like for this, I can pick my lender, hit price loan, and you'll notice I'm getting my live rates just like I would in a loan file. And that's one thing that I think is important to know about this. This pricing engine, you have all the same functionality that you would in a loan file here. So you can generate quotes, you can generate initial fees worksheets, you can just check the eligibility and the rates, whatever you need to do. But you can do it from here, is the long story short. But with respect to what we're talking about with pricing templates, once you get the rates out, what you can then do is come up to this save scenario. And what this is going to do is it's going to let you name this and save this exact pricing run as a pricing template for yourself. So if you hit save scenario, you give this a name, right? Which I won't do here because I already have a lot. But when you give it a name, what happens is we then save that in your profile. So if you come back into the pricing engine later, you can come up to this search scenario, click up here, and it's going to show you all the scenarios that you have saved. And when you click the title for one, this is going to populate all the information from when you ran that pricing request into the pricing engine. So you'll notice I've got that 685 purchase price, that 685 appraised value, right? And I don't have a zip, all of that. When I click this, it's going to overwrite all of that. So I've got my zip, I've got my purchase price, appraised value. Everything that I put into the pricing engine when I ran pricing populates when I click that title. From there, I can either just immediately price the loan out and see what qualifies for that exact scenario, or I can tweak the information a little bit, right, and keep going and then price it out with a modified version of that scenario. So the nice thing to know about this, right, the nice use case for this is a quick pricer, right? So if someone calls you on the phone and they say, look, I don't want to give you my whole application, just tell me what your rates are, right? I can come in and say, okay, cool. Let me, are you looking for a purchase or a refi, right? They'll say purchase. I can go ahead and populate my generic purchase with, qualifying information. And then I can ask, well, okay, well, how's your credit? And I can say, oh, it's pretty good. Okay, that sounds fine. How much are you making today? Let me go ahead and put that in here. Okay, 5,000. About how much are you paying for your house today, right? That sort of idea. And once I'm good, I can come up and price that modified scenario. So the pricing template gives me a good starting point with eligible information that I can either run as a default or start modifying as a starting point whenever I get a phone call like that and someone's just shopping for rates. So again, the way you would save that, you just price loan, hit save scenario at the top, and you can retrieve that with that search scenario up here. I recommend that every loan officer does at least one basic purchase and at least one basic refi with qualifying general information that represents the type of business they usually do. That way, whenever you do get that quick phone call, you can just come in and do a purchase or refi and start from there. It's better than starting from scratch. So I just recommend you do at least that, but you can get really granular with it if you want. Once you have these created, you can then, again, manage them in your user settings via pricing templates, and you'll see the whole list of everything you saved here. From there, you can delete them if you need to, or if you click on these, it'll take you right into the pricing engine with all that information. It's as if you had clicked it in that search scenario box. The last thing to know about pricing templates is that this actions has a star under it. If you click the star for one of these, it's going to make that, quote, your dashboard default scenario. What that means is that if you come into the dashboard up here, we're going to use this scenario and price it out and show you the best rates for that scenario. So these rates are based on pricing in that specific pricing scenario that I've set up as my default. So you can set up, a basic purchase or a basic refi, make that your default scenario, and then you'll be able to check on the best rates for it via your dashboard from there. So it can be pretty useful, and I recommend that every loan officer in particular sets at least those basics up. That said, once you've done this user settings setup, you've done a first pass, entered in all this information, you're basically good to go, and you can start creating loans. So to get started, you can just come up, plus new up here, start creating a loan file, do a quote, import files, whatever you need to do to get started, start playing with that system, and you should be good to go from there. The only other thing I want you to know before we end this presentation is how to get in touch with us and how to get support resources. So with that said, if you have any question at all, the best default is to email support@arive.com. We are always monitoring that. We're very quick to respond. And if it's a question that belongs somewhere else, we can forward that question along generally. So best starting place, if you're in doubt, support@arive.com. If you have any kind of feature suggestion or something you kind of wished worked differently, feedback@arive.com is going to be the best bet for that. And again, if you are not sure, support@arive.com works as well. We also have the support portal here. And if you click this, it will take you into that, but you can also access it directly via support.arive.com. So if I use that, I can actually come right in, and we have all kinds of great resources for you. User guides, getting started guides, recorded webinars, release notes, all that sort of stuff. And the great thing is that it really makes it digestible. So for example, if I come into my upload user profile image, it's going to show you step by step how you can do just that. So you don't have to watch a whole presentation like the one I just did. You can just see, okay, this is how I do that one specific thing, along with a whole written guide on it as well. So definitely take a look at that and let us know if you have any questions from there. You'll also notice that in the support portal, we do have a chat widget that we are working towards here. You can come in, ask questions, search our FAQs, and even chat with us live. The last thing I want you to know, this announcements tab. If you ever see a blinking number above this, definitely give this a click. All this does is show you any announcements that we've made. This is going to show you things like release notes, webinar announcements, as well as if there are ever any system issues, we post information about that there. So definitely stay in touch with this. Otherwise, that's basically everything that it would make sense to know before you get started. Definitely let us know if you have any questions about this presentation, support@arive.com, and I hope you guys have a great onboarding experience. Thanks.